22,000 feet above sea level, there's a place where the air holds roughly a third of the oxygen you'd get at the beach, where temperatures drop far below freezing most nights, and where almost nothing survives for long. Climbers passing through that altitude on their way up major Andean peaks need supplemental oxygen just to keep functioning. And somehow, living permanently in that exact environment, researchers found a mouse, not passing through, not stranded, living there year-round as its actual home range, which makes it the highest-dwelling mammal ever confirmed on the planet. The animal is the Andean leaf-eared mouse, and before this discovery, scientists already knew small mammals could handle serious altitude. What they didn't expect was an animal thriving this far above the elevation where oxygen becomes genuinely dangerous for most warm-blooded creatures. For context, 22,000 feet puts this mouse higher than every mountain in North America, higher than most commercial flight cruising altitudes felt from the ground, and well into what mountaineers call the death zone. When talking about human physiology, the altitude range where the body starts actively deteriorating rather than just struggling. So how does a creature the size of your palm survive conditions that would put a fit, acclimatized human in serious medical danger within hours? This is where it gets genuinely interesting, because the answer isn't one single adaptation, it's a stack of them, each one solving a different piece of the same brutal problem. Start with oxygen. At that altitude, there's roughly a third less of it in the air compared to sea level, which means every breath delivers dramatically less fuel to power basic bodily functions. Most mammals compensate for lower oxygen by producing more red blood cells, which sounds helpful until you realize that blood, which is too thick with red blood cells, becomes dangerously viscous, harder for the heart to pump, more prone to clotting. It's a real problem for humans who spend extended time at extreme altitude without proper acclimatization. The Andean leaf-eared mouse appears to sidestep this trap partly through changes in hemoglobin itself, the protein in blood that actually carries oxygen, making each molecule more efficient at grabbing and holding onto the little oxygen that is available, rather than simply flooding the bloodstream with more red blood cells and running into the thickness problem. Then there's the cold, which is its own separate survival puzzle entirely. Temperatures at that elevation swing dramatically between day and night, often dropping well below freezing even during parts of the year that would be comfortable at lower elevations nearby. Small mammals lose heat fast because of their size. A higher surface area relative to body mass means heat escapes quickly, which is exactly why most small animals avoid extreme cold environments if they can help it. According to researchers studying this species, the mouse appears to generate body heat with unusual efficiency, essentially running a more effective internal furnace than its lowland relatives, which allows it to maintain a stable core temperature in conditions that would send a similarly sized mouse at lower altitude into hypothermia within a short period. Here's the part that connects both problems together in a way that's genuinely elegant from an evolutionary standpoint. Generating extra body heat requires burning more energy, and burning more energy requires more oxygen to fuel that metabolic process. Normally, that would create a vicious cycle at high altitude. You need more oxygen to stay warm, but there's less oxygen available in the first place. The mouse's combination of adaptations, the more efficient oxygen-carrying blood and the enhanced heat-generating metabolism, work together specifically to break that cycle, allowing it to stay warm without requiring more oxygen than its body can actually extract from the thin surrounding air. There's a bigger question hiding underneath all of this specific biology, and it's the reason researchers care about this discovery beyond just cataloging an extreme survivor. How does natural selection push a species toward an environment this hostile in the first place? Nothing about 22,000 feet is a comfortable habitat to gradually drift into. The leading explanation involves competition and predation pressure at lower elevations, essentially pushing certain populations further and further upslope over many generations, with each incremental step favoring individuals who happened to carry small genetic advantages in cold and low oxygen tolerance. Over enough generations, what started as marginal survival adaptations became a fully specialized toolkit, until eventually a population existed that could not just tolerate extreme altitude, but actually thrive there while competitors and predators mostly stayed behind at lower, easier elevations. That competitive pressure angle also explains something that might otherwise seem strange. Why would any animal choose an environment this difficult when easier options exist lower on the mountain? The honest answer is that it probably wasn't a choice in any meaningful sense. It was likely a slow population squeeze, where staying at lower, more hospitable elevations meant constant competition for resources and higher predation risk, while pushing upward into territory too harsh for most other species meant less competition and, eventually, close to none at all. Extreme environments are often less about which species is toughest and more about which species finds itself with the fewest other options, and the right starting adaptations to actually capitalize on that isolation instead of simply dying out. It's worth putting this in context against the previous record holders, because the leap here isn't small. Before this discovery, the animals considered the highest dwelling mammals or other rodent species found at high elevation in different mountain ranges, along with a handful of large grazing animals occasionally spotted at extreme altitude during seasonal movement. But those large grazers were typically passing through, moving up temporarily to reach patches of vegetation before descending again, not living there permanently the way this mouse appears to. The distinction between an animal that visits an extreme environment and one that actually makes it a permanent home range matters enormously in biology, because permanent residency requires successfully reproducing in that environment across generations, not just surviving a temporary excursion. That's a much higher bar to clear, and it's exactly the bar this species appears to meet. The research team behind this finding didn't stumble onto the discovery by accident either. Locating and confirming a small mammal at this elevation required repeated expeditions into terrain that's genuinely dangerous even for well-equipped researchers, let alone casual observers. Confirming that the mice found at these heights were breeding populations rather than isolated strays required trapping multiple individuals across different seasons and verifying reproductive activity, essentially proving the population wasn't just a handful of unlucky animals that had wandered too far upslope and gotten stuck. That kind of fieldwork, at altitudes where human researchers themselves need to worry about altitude sickness, is part of why a discovery like this takes years to properly confirm rather than being reported the moment a single mouse gets spotted on a mountainside.